Greetings, everyone, and welcome back. Manners on the Wall, Anthony Russell here, and well, a very, very special guest, a man of many hats, but apparently no title, as we've just been speaking about off air. But the owner of the Swindon Wildcats and the Leeds Knights of the National Division, Steve Nell, joins me on the line. Steve, you are not generally a man to do these kind of things, so thank you very much for taking the time.
No problem. You're welcome.
I think probably the first thing we need to talk about is probably just kind of a congratulations, a well done from. I don't pretend to speak for many people, but certainly I think from the outside, we are speaking on Tuesday evening. I have my ticket for Saturday. The Swindon Wildcats are finally going to be back in the Link Centre for the first time this season. It's taken quite a monumental effort to kind of get to this point. Congratulations! You must be over the moon at this point.
Yeah. It's lots of changes going on, and it's been hourly and half hourly and minutes sometimes over the last week, with the amount of work that's going on to get the ring back open and the Link Centre in general. So yeah, we're very happy, relieved. Probably won't be fully relieved until the puck drops on Saturday night. But yeah, we're in a good spot, and yeah, lots of positive things being done by the ring operator, GLL, and the council, and everybody connected, all the contractors. There's an unbelievable amount of work going on to get us back.
Yeah, I think one of the I did mention to Aaron Nell, of course, your son, head coach of the Wildcats. I think in what's been quite a tough year, certainly a tough couple of months for British hockey. Actually, obviously, the incident, the flooding at the Link Centre, all the issues in this very big central leisure facility for the town of Swindon having these kind of problems is obviously not very good. But certainly from a hockey perspective, the way the community around the Wildcats banded together to help out in bits and pieces. I understand you were there was meetings held in the Harvester across the way from the Link Centre. Your title sponsor, Bespoke Guardians, were giving you office space, and also as well, there's all that rigmarole of the National League clubs kind of helping out with fixtures. I think, I said to Aaron, it's actually a very rare good news story out of a bad news story, for the fact that everybody was able to kind of pick you up and keep pulling you along a little bit.
Yeah, we've had support from our sponsors. Bespoke, you mentioned, responsive personnel. There's so many sponsors who've helped and been supportive. But the office space has been a big thing because the office was flooded. So that's been really tough. But from season ticket holders, we had a meeting with season ticket holders about 4 or 6 weeks ago. They've been very patient and supportive. Just the general fans, the teams, the other teams, everybody just tried to help. John Scott from Raiders, very helpful. And it would have cost him some money for what he did to help us. And we've got Hull being helpful. Every team's been helpful. There's nobody's been negative whatsoever. I couldn't fault anybody from a support level, whether it's teams, fans, season ticket sponsors, everybody. Yeah, we couldn't fault everybody. We're very grateful for it.
Yeah. And now, of course, December is hockey month in Swindon. A multitude of games happening in a very, very short space of time. Obviously, there's the practical issues of getting back into the building. That's obviously very, very nearly there. But operationally, this has got to be quite a large challenge to be able to put on that much hockey in that short a space of time, as well from a financial aspect as well. Because there's got to be a little bit of a concern, because you're putting on so much in such a short space of time over a period like Christmas, where quite a lot of stuff goes on for families. I mean, is there a obviously, I think that first game is going to be absolutely jam-packed to the rafters, but is there a worry a little bit about making sure people come through the door for the volume you're going to kind of need them to kind of get the coffers restocked, as it were?
No, I wouldn't actually. I would be the opposite. If we didn't have the games, I'd be very worried. So, with only having the 3 home games, and probably the Milton Keynes game was the only game that broke even. The other 2 games at home, very thankful to Bristol and Planet Ice and Cardiff Devils for helping us out, but very tough, those games financially. So to have no real income for this many weeks and months, whoever turns up on Saturday and Sunday, it'll be a relief. So whether it's 7, 8, 9,000, 1,100, it'll just be a relief. I'm not concerned in that way that, you know, there's too much hockey. We'll get what we'll get, and it'll be a lot more than we've had for the last. I think somebody told me 91 days it's going to be. So yeah, we just really
told you that. It's probably Ben Callahan, and he's probably been counting.
Yeah, one of his PRs actually.
Yes. I think the one thing I'm interested to hear from you on, obviously having had to hold Wildcats games in different places. I'm a very big believer in an old maxim: talent borrows, genius steals. As you've been dotting around, holding home games in different places, is there anything from any of these venues where you've looked at and gone, when we get back, I need to bring that idea with me? Is there anything that's leapt out at you like that?
Yeah, something from every venue. Where Milton Keynes, very well organised, very easy for us to go and play there. So took some good things from there, the way they do their stage and their sound and everything. So we had to adapt to that. Bristol is a similar thing, a bit different for us, but a great rink, you know, great atmosphere in there, and with our 800 fans. And then Cardiff was I suppose another level as far as rinks go. Yeah, and there's a lot to take from Cardiff, and I'll assume that this is not going out this week. So if it does, I'm in trouble. But the improvements we've made at the Link Centre and some of the new things that will be there, and we've got a new scoreboard, which is a digital screen. When we seen that one in Cardiff, you know, they've got the four-sided video screen. Ours is only going to be one-sided, but it's a big 6 meter by 3 meter screen that we haven't released yet, so people don't know anything about that. So I'm sure when people see it on Saturday night, it's going to be impressive. There's going to be new ice logos, so the rink's going to look different. New lighting, yeah. There's a lot of improvements that have been made. So yeah, and we've taken a little bit from every team we've played against. You know, but I do that in general, whether I'm home or away. I look at what other people are doing and see if we can pinch something and make something better in Swindon. Yeah, whichever rink, yeah, wherever we are in the world as well, we can always improve.
I think the one thing we've probably also got to mention very briefly here is, given the fact that obviously they remain top of the table, things seem to keep sort of ticking along there. Probably a word as well to your crew that you have helping run the Leeds Knights, because the fact that things are, for the most part, seemingly on and off the ice going so well in Leeds, the fact that you've been able to probably concentrate that much more on the Wildcats is probably kind of a testament to the job that your guys are doing in Yorkshire in terms of keeping that club running without needing quite as much of your attention over the last couple of months.
Yeah, it has been a different few months, and we have got a fantastic team. You know, not just players. I'm talking about the support staff, the volunteers. Yeah, we got Ryan running the hockey operations, Warwick running the off-ice operations, the sponsorship, Gail and Paul doing the merchandise, the match night volunteers. You know, there's so many people there who are helping, and it's such a positive place. I'd never really been to Leeds before we took the team on. Drove through it, or drove past it a lot over the years because I'm from the northeast. So I would always be driving back from Swindon, Sunderland, so past Leeds a lot. But the people and the positivity, and everybody's just happy to help. From the fans who come, they love it. The volunteers, sponsors, season ticket, everybody is just positive, and it's been I wouldn't say it's been easy, but it's been a joy. You know, the last 2.5 years. Yeah, it's tough. It was tough to get going, but you know, we've got a good group of players, and we've built around that, and Ryan's doing a great job adding to that. Everything has grown, and yeah, I haven't spent as much time as I would normally have, just because we've got so many things being going on in Swindon. But yeah, we have got a great team up there in all aspects, on and off the ice.
On a practical sense, I'm interested to hear how you go about on what would be a normal day, as much as you can do when one team's playing out of everywhere apart from where it should be. But that aspect of trying to run two organizations must be an interesting logistical challenge. I mean, how does this work? Because there's always a little part in the back of my head and I think this is probably the football bias of British culture, where it kind of says having somebody owning 2 teams in one league is not an ideal situation. How does it work, and why is it the right thing for right now, I suppose would be my question.
I think the main focus for me is to try and develop the sport. Getting the opportunity to take Leeds on as well. Yeah, it is a bit different, and I'm sure people do look in other sports and think, how can you do that? But I'm not really that emotional. Both teams got the same budget. If one of them spends a little bit more than the other, it's neither here nor there. We just work at the coaches do the coaching. I'm setting up the off ice, if you like, with the team in Leeds and the team in Swindon. Very rarely do I get involved in the on ice stuff, very rarely. I don't pick players. I don't pick imports. That's down to Aaron and Ryan. So I got no involvement. I think the key for me is if you've been to one of those games, you'll see how competitive they are. Both sets of players want to beat the other team. Maybe it's just to stick something up at me, but they're both very competitive. They're all good off the ice afterwards, but both teams want to win. So for me, I just let them go. I don't get involved in it. They do their thing, and I'm just trying to grow the sport and grow 2 teams and make it better for everybody. And that's my philosophy. I've been involved for a long time, and I've seen a lot of things go on, and just build a sport. The sport needs building and an expansion for the sport and growth. So that's my take on it. I don't get involved on the on ice. The off ice, we can have some economies of scale in the off ice. We're one person working over 2 teams, but there's no conflict there. So for me, it's pretty simple, to be fair.
Yeah, I was going to just ask about that. I mean, you talk about that sort of economies of scale. It would be sheer simple business sense to have some people doing roles for both clubs. Is there? I mean, what sort of staff are we looking at in terms of, sort of working across both teams? Because obviously there are some functions that necessitate somebody can't be in Swindon to do that job in Leeds. But what kind of crossover are we talking about in terms of people working across both?
Marketing. The marketing is the real crossover. We got one person in Swindon, one person in Leeds. They work together. That's the main area. Even on the commercial side, we're always going to share. And even when you come to the coaching, and I'm not just talking about Aaron and Ryan, I'm sure they both speak to other coaches around the league, and they feed off each other. And they might ask for some feedback at the other coaches. Generally, the coaches are pretty open, and they all want to win. Everybody wants to win, but
they do. You could have fooled me on that one.
So for me, the marketing is the big one. But even on the commercial side, I have a commercial consultant, Tim, who works with us, who works with both teams commercially, and that's more of a sales angle, and so there's no conflict there. I had an owner of a team a few years ago contact me and not from not in our locality, and said, I know we're in competition, but can you help us with this? Can you help us with that? I said, we're not in competition. We're in competition for 60 minutes on a Saturday and Sunday night. But that's not me and him. That's the coaches and the players. We can share anything, and I do share anything we do business-wise, commercial-wise, marketing, to help any other team in the league, because we're not in competition apart from that 60 minutes. We need to work with each other and help each other and build the league, the team stronger. It's not going to work. It can't just be 1 or 2 strong teams. We need at least 10 teams that are sustainable, and sustainable is a big part of it. So we will help any team and share anything. There's no secrets. It's not there's nothing fancy. Hard work.
Yeah, I think the question that what you've just said kind of sort of naturally leads on to is about the fact you talk about you're not in competition. You're in competition at the weekends, but not during the rest of it. I mean, I kind of have to think back to the summer and some of the rigmarole surrounding the Sheffield Steel Dogs and the change of ownership there. That was a very, very messy situation. That there was a variety of things, a variety of news that came out, a variety of stuff I reported. We of course had this very long press release from Planet Ice as well into the bargain about some of the bits that have happened there. Where is the National League in terms of getting past that element? Because of course we've had this change of ownership now at the Steel Dogs. Ali Kriya stepped away, Tony Smith has stepped in. There was initial resistance to that. Where are we now, sort of 4 or 5 months on from that point? Is the National League as a entity going forward, are you able to work together?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, once the issues were resolved, that was it. Like the week after league starts, and yeah, everybody's just working together. There was no issues once the league started, so there's nothing went on and carried on. We've got a league to run. We're doing it. We're working with each other. We'll support each other, and yeah, it's simple as that. It's a lot of stuff can be made a lot bigger and worse on social media. I heard somebody say the other night, there's 3 sides to every story.
Mm-hmm.
My side, your side, and what really happened.
In the middle, yeah.
And that's why I don't really get into social media. I don't listen to it. I learned a long time ago, before social media, you're only as good as your last game. You don't listen to what they write about you in the paper, as it was back then. And I don't really listen to the social media. If any of our fans want to come and speak to me direct, I'm always there. And I'm always open to. And if somebody doesn't like something, I'll have that discussion with them, and they can. They've got their opinion, and they're entitled to that. If they're one of our fans, if it's somebody on social media spouting off, I'm not listening. I'm not interested. If it's one of our fans, if it's an away fan who's not happy with something in our rinks, I'll listen. But I'm not getting excited and carried away by what's going on social media. Definitely.
I think the problem you kind of have there, Steve, is that situation did evolve well beyond just people talking on social media. To the point where Planet Ice, the largest operator of ice rinks in the country, felt the need to put out a full-page statement that, in parts, certainly part of it felt like it was holding a head to the gun of the sport. I think we're beyond the social media moaning when one of the biggest stakeholders in the game is feeling the need to kind of speak on it.
I think that's because you don't know what went on, and I wouldn't talk about what went on. It's confidential. So I think there's the 3 sides to every story, and people are going to take one side, some people are going to take the other, and I think the owners were just acting from what they were seeing and hearing, and yeah, I don't think the ownership of the teams would see it the same way as social media would see it.
No. I think they probably did. We've been in a lot more trouble than we currently are. Either way, we are past that point now. The national division is here. Sheffield are in it. It is moving on. Basingstoke float in the ethereal mist for the time being. As a product, where do you see National League hockey right now? There's obviously room to grow, we know that, but there've obviously been changes over the summer, changes to the rules, changes to approach. You've now got this group of you working together to kind of, as you say, grow the sport. We have an on-ice product that is there. How do you feel about it at the moment?
I'm positive about it. I've been positive about it for a while, but I think there's lots going on. There's room lots of areas we can improve on, but for me, we've got a sport that's exciting sport. I watch football. I think before we started, I had the football on. Mm-hmm. I watch football, but I see us as an exciting sport, something happening all the time. I think we need to promote ourselves better. We need to become more professional. And by that, and I'll say this about a junior setup as well. When we took over the Swindon Junior Club, I can't remember how many years ago, it was about running it professionally. That doesn't mean everybody gets paid. That doesn't mean it's not run by volunteers, but the volunteers have got to be professional in what they do. We can all make mistakes. We all get things wrong, so that's not an issue, but we've just got to be more professional in our approach and our approach to the sport and how we grow it. I think COVID taught us a lot about streaming. Streaming's now pretty much in every team in our league. Pretty sure it's in every team. And it's a big asset to us. that's another revenue stream that teams couldn't do without now, I think. So, but there's lots of areas where we can grow the match night experience, our community engagement. Big thing for me is make sure we're sustainable and we're not just wasting money and spending money that we haven't got, because that's an issue in lots of sports, from our level right to the top level. So for me, sustainability is big, but yeah, we just need to work together instead of against each other. Be more professional, act more professionally on and off the ice, and yeah, get the fans in, because I think once we get fans in and fans see what's going on, and if we've got a good product on the ice and off the ice, and the, you know, that match night entertainment experience, and that's what we're trying to do with the big screen in Swindon, is try and enhance that. Leeds has got a couple of screens already. We're trying to enhance that match night entertainment and experience. So when people come, they go away thinking, yeah, I like that. I'll go back to that. That was a good night. And it's a family sport. That's what we want to push that. So yeah, lots of areas to improve on as a league and as teams, but I think we've got to come together more, because we've got a great sport. Maybe we're just not selling it well enough as a group, as a nation, if you like, rather than teams and leagues. So yeah, I think we've got a great sport.
As an ex-player, though, where do you see the on-ice product at the moment?
I'm pleased with how we've went since, I guess, 2015, 16, whatever the last year of the EPL was. I think we're getting better. I think the Brits are getting better because they're getting a chance to play. I think the 3 imports is the right number for us. Again, I'm sure, you know, people say, oh, we should have 4, we should have 5. It's okay for the 1 or 2 teams, let's just say 4 teams who can afford 4 and 5 imports. But if the teams down in 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 can't afford it, then it's not sustainable. And you can't run a league on 6 teams, you know, 4 teams. So we've got to focus on the sustainability of the league, and that's about looking after each other, working with each other, and not just getting into an arms race and, you know, teams spending more than they've got, then a team goes bust. So I'm comfortable with we've had the same group for a while since the EPL. There's obviously the change this summer, but there's been a change in Bs a couple of years before that. But I think we're in a good spot. I really do. I like the level of what we're playing, and yes, we want to improve it, but we've got to improve it within our reach, within our means, not just spending what we haven't got and then going bust, because that doesn't do anything for anybody.
I mean, not spending what you don't have and going bust leads on to a question that's always lingered in the background, because it was something that has been spoken about in the past, albeit how concrete it was before. Is there a salary cap still in the national division as there has been in the past?
I've heard this mentioned quite a few times. We discussed the salary cap probably 4 years ago when it first came out. Maybe, you know, give or take a year, could have been more or less, because we get lost through COVID. But and that for me, being very open, is the salary cap is to stop the teams who've got more money from just spending and pushing the other teams out. So for me, that worked. People talk about the salary cap, but there's also people want pay rises, and you know, as everybody does when they've got a job, they want a pay rise. So I think, you know, if that salary cap then goes up every year with inflation, I think that's a good place to be, so long as it was starting at the right point. And I'm quite pleased with, you know, we're not losing teams because they're spending too much. That's where the boom and bust comes in, and I suppose a cycle that's happened in British hockey and in all levels for probably 20, 30 years now. League gets good, it gets better, spend too much, and then boom, bust, start again.
Yes, we can. It was 10 years. It was just over 10 years ago since I interviewed somebody who was partially involved in some of that boom or bust. Let's just put it that way before we move on. If that's kind of where the national division needs to go, what about the sport in Britain in general? Because as somebody who is in a position of quite considerable influence within the sport in Britain right now, you've got the national division, which is obviously your sort of, you know, your circle in the middle of where you operate. What about the rest of the sport in Britain? What do we need push ourselves on, make ourselves better?
I think it's positive that both the IHA and ISOC UK have had funding, so they've both got staff now, and that will add to the professionalism, and I'm sure the IHA get a lot of stick and members of the IHA, but I think one of the things that I always remember is, one, I'll not stand to be a director of the IHA. And if I'm not going to stand, I'm not going to stand up there and abuse them either. If I want to give feedback, I'll give it privately, either face to face is my preferred avenue of feedback. Can be email, but I'm not one to just send an email, attacking people. So if I've got something to say, I'll say it to them privately. But I think we just need more professionalism, more strategy within the sport from, an ISOC UK working on it now, IHA working on it. So more strategy, more focus on the growth of the sport. And that could be down to your learn to play sessions. That can be at your GB level. But I think we've also got to work together. And there's a lot of, in the past, I'll not say now, but in the past, there's a lot of egos involved and people doing it for the wrong reasons. We've got to do it to grow the sport. We've got to do it for the benefit of everybody. We've got to work together, and it's not about me. And you say I've got a considerable influence. I try not to be at the front. This is probably the first and last one of these I'll ever do. But yeah, it's professionalize the sport, but that doesn't mean everybody gets paid. Help each other, take away the egos, take away the politics. I'm not a big politician. Get rid of the politics. It's not about me and you. It's about the sport, and that's what it is at all levels. And that's the big thing we need to get over.
I think the slight pushback I would kind of give there is that actually that there are times where there is a line that will be crossed, and there is a way to vocally and publicly put pressure on the organizations that run the sport in this country to be better. I think of I will use it as an example in the moment because it's on the minds of a lot of players and a lot of supporters. But the recent NIHL Department of Player Safety is something that has caused a lot of perturbation. Now there is a way and a means to have that feedback session in private, and I'm aware quite a lot of people have done that. But we are certainly with some bits and pieces, there has to come a line where, and I hate to use the example, but we've just seen Harvey Stead get a suspension for checking to the head, where the video evidence very clearly shows he has not made contact with the man's head. There is only so much that can be done in private for so long, I think would be my challenge to you there, Steve.
Yeah, but I don't think what you're doing, I don't know what you're doing, Anthony.
And we will keep it that way. I will hide in the shadows and you will never know.
Yeah, I don't really see that making a lot of difference. I agree that, I only watched Harvey's hit on my phone, so I didn't see the whole thing. But I can sit in the office and I can have Ryan Aldridge show me a clip and Aaron show me a clip, and we might just disagree on what we say. So that's us individually, and we're as close as anything. But we might disagree on what we've seen. Yes, it needs to improve. That's the bottom line. It needs to improve. The communication of how it's done, the processes involved need to improve. So it's just not my style to go and shout about it. I'd rather do that privately to those people. And if you do it the right way, I think we can all see that it needs improving, and it's got to improve. It's got to improve.
Yeah. I'll ask that question because we've talked a fair bit about what's not going as well as it could do. What's British hockey doing right at the moment, in your opinion?
What are we doing right? We're getting a lot of people now coming into the games. We've got to be more visible, but we're still, we've got Milton Keynes got a great fan base. Leeds, young but getting a great fan base. Swindon's got a good fan base. Bristol have come up there. Look, Bristol, they got 1,400. So if you look at Bristol and Leeds, they got 1,400 most games. Leeds are averaging over 1,500, had 1,900 2 or 3 weeks ago. So there's people coming into the game. There's a couple of new rinks, and there's people coming in. It's hard for me to say what's going on in the Elite League teams or the teams below, in the leagues below, but I think there's more people coming to watch the game, and I think that's good for the sport. It's getting us more visibility. And I know a lot of people talk about TV coverage and getting on the TV. It's not that easy, and it's not that financially viable to get on the TV. I know Speedway have done it over the years, and it cost them a lot of money initially. I had some friends involved in that, but yeah, for me, it's getting more fans in, and when you see the stats of how many people come in each week, whether it's Milton Keynes at 2,000, 2.5, Leeds 15 to 2. Bristol, let's call it 1,400. Who else have we got? I actually think Bees are doing a good job improving everything they do. So, they might not have the crowd of 1,000 plus every week, but I think they're doing a good job and improving what they do and with what they've got down there. So I think it's just bringing more fans. I think that's what we're getting, but I think we've got a good time here as well. After COVID, people want to be out. People want to be out. People want to be entertained. I know there's a lot of talk about the financial crisis, but we're at that bottom level of the pricing, if you like, for that sport and pound. That we're not football. We're not as expensive as football. We're not going to be. So I think people do want to get out, and I think they want to come and watch. And if we promote the game right, and I think teams are doing that. I think when you see what's happening in, I'll just use Milton Keynes, Leeds, Bristol, Swindon. These teams are grown, and if we work together, and I know it might sound corny, but we got to help each other. We got to help everybody grow those crowds. That's what we want. We want more crowds. It's already what it was a start a few years ago. It's the biggest indoor spectator sport in the country anywhere. Ice hockey is. It's right. It's how do we get more? Yeah, probably could do with a few more arenas teams. Yeah, a few more arena teams for the Elite League. Growth of rinks, yeah, that would be good. But I guess Leeds and Bristol are the two new ones, and I've heard rumours that there's other, you see it in the press, there's other rink developments around. But yeah, until they come, I'm not really that. I don't really focus on them.
No, you do strike me as a man who's not particularly interested in potential things. You seem to be a man who's very much kind of, I will do with what I've got in front of me right now, rather than sort of doing stuff on the never per se.
Yeah, it's okay if we've got a plan and there's a plan in place, and that's where the strategy comes in from above. And Ice Hockey, KIHA strategy for development of rinks. Yeah, there should be. Yeah, definitely.
You mentioned there about people sort of wanting to get out. Obviously, prices for things have crept up in Swindon. You have due to conditions you had around the rink. Obviously, you lost a chunk of seats. You've had to put prices up there. Now, I know the average ticket price for Swindon Town is sort of £27. So you are still below that. But are you concerned? Increase? Because £19 for a seat for second tier British ice hockey, there are people who are going to say you're asking a lot of people there.
Well, we put the price back down as it happens, because the seats. It's Tuesday night. I find out on Thursday or Friday whether we can put all those seats on sale. But we've put the price back down because we're expecting them to come back either this weekend or very shortly in the next few weeks. So we said we'd put the price back down, and we did. Or we have just this week when we put the seats back on sale. But no, that doesn't concern me. Concerns me going to Costa Coffee and paying £8 for a couple of bits. That's what concerns me. It doesn't concern me paying 15, 16, 20 quid for 3 hours of entertainment that, I think is good value for money. And I don't think it matters. I've had this said to me before as well. About the price, I was years back, and somebody said to me about Guildford. I think Guildford had put the price down to £8, So I'm not competing with Guildford on a Saturday night. I'm competing with Pizza Hut and the bowling alley and the cinema, and that's what I'm competing with. I'm not competing with another team, and it doesn't matter whether I've been asked about Cardiff. You know, I got asked this 2 years ago. Why is, I think our ticket price was 16 quid. If I can go to Cardiff for 16, yeah, but they got 3,000 seats and I haven't. So there's a financial element to it that just doesn't fit. But
and the petrol of driving to Cardiff from Swindon, of course, into the bargain.
Well, there you go. But it's I think it's good value for money when you compare what you spend and on other things and around your locality of what you're doing. And I think it's good value. Our stream ticket is 15 quid. I think the stream ticket is good value at 15 quid for 3 hours, 2.5 hours, 3 hours entertainment to sit at home. And yeah, I think we give.
I mean, this is a thing I've challenged a few teams over, so I will challenge you about it as well. Paying nearly the same price to watch something on my TV that I could watch in the building itself is arguably too high.
Well, it depends if you're local. But if you're a Leeds fan travelling to Swindon on Sunday, costing you X pounds, where 2 or 3 of you can watch the same stream at home without spending that money, because a lot of people won't go to those long distance games. I think it's good value. I'm only comparing it with what I'm going to spend, what I'm going to pay anywhere to do whatever I want.
Yeah, I think as someone who's now had the opportunity to do a bit of commentary on these live streams, it's something that's like taking my interest a bit more. And
I think we're good. I actually listened to you. I didn't realize it was you. I think it must have been a month or so ago, 6 weeks ago, and you were doing commentary, and I liked what you were saying, how you were sounding. I did think you were good.
Thank you. But yeah, I'm just conscious of the accessibility of the product in that sense. And like you say, about becoming more visible, because ultimately I think if we're honest with ourselves, like streaming as a majority thing is for home fans who can't make it, and for away fans who don't want to make that travel. That is not necessarily our avenue into expanding the sport outwards to people who are not familiar with it. Because, and maybe this is a slightly controversial opinion, but I don't necessarily think ice hockey is the best suited sport for television in some ways, because of the central aspect of what you're trying to put in the net is incredibly small. And actually, one of the things that I'm really conscious of is trying to add value on top of that, because what we're fundamentally asking people to do is quite hard to do, which is to follow the small vulcanized rubber black disc that goes flying around. And I think that's kind of where I wonder on the price point, because we're asking extra of the people at home to do something they don't necessarily need to do as hard in the ring. So is charging them a level on a price with a physical ticket fair?
It is to me. That's the answer. We got different opinions. But
I can't argue that.
That's the answer. I think it's fair.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yes.
I think it's an interesting one, and obviously you've got your respective commentators in both places. I won't ask you which one's your favourite, but the logistics around kind of doing that for people, because obviously you guys, the Wildcats as an organisation. I mean, in my interview with Aaron during the summer, he mentioned that you guys, you took quite a hefty financial hit doing the COVID streaming bits and pieces. But the streaming wise, where does it fit in sort of your strategy of what you're doing? Is it a big thing? Is it a little thing? Because obviously, I mean, I've spoken to people like John Strange and Solway, and that was a very big sort of, we're stepping up into this higher league now. This is something we want to focus on and do well. And I think Solway do it quite well. But where do you kind of see it sitting? Because like you say, you mentioned about sort of TV deals. Well, we don't have a TV deal in the National Division. The Elite League don't have one either. Where does it, from a strategy perspective, is there an idea to work more closer together on kind of having some consistency across what's there, or is it going to be left to the clubs to do their own thing?
I think it's left to the clubs at the moment, but I would like more consistency. We have had internal discussions more in Swindon and Leeds between ourselves about season tickets, about pricing it different, but working with the other teams. But I think we're just not that at that point yet. But that's where I'd like to get. As far as strategy for the stream, how big is it? It's not a massive revenue stream, but I think what people probably forget, and we've seen this for years in Swindon, if you're 50-50s, 150 quid, okay, it's 150 quid, that's okay. If it's 300 quid, you're doubling it. If it's 500 quid, all those little bits, the 50-50, the shirt off the back, the chucker pucks, they all count. They all count because there's a big black hole out there and there's a lot of money going into it. So if you can create a revenue stream that's giving you 5 grand a year, 10 grand a year, 15 grand, it doesn't matter what it is, it's all just adding to that pot. And that pot, there's not many teams in British hockey are making a lot of money. There'll be probably more teams losing money than making money, that's for sure. So anything you can do to just reduce that loss and turn a loss in our business plan is not a very good business plan. And I'll tell you what it was back in 2004. The business plan was, if we lose 5 or 10 grand, it's okay. I mean, why on earth would anybody come in thinking it's okay to lose 5 or 10 grand? That was back in 2004. There's a term I'll use. I had somebody from governing body say something to me 2 years ago, and I said, "Oh, you're all about commercial, though. You're only about the money. You're all about commercial." Well, you can either be in the romance of sport or the business of sport. If you're in the romance, you get close to going bust and bankrupt, and we've been there. Last year, the UPL lost more money than we had to lose. So I'm passionate. We got involved for passion at the start. I've played, I've coached, I've done all that type of stuff. But if you just look at the romance of the sport, you're going to go bust. You're going to go bankrupt. And that's just not where I am. So I'm not focused on money for let's just make more money. I'm focused on bringing in a revenue, being focused on a business and creating a professionally run business, pretty much so we don't go bankrupt and we're sustainable. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. Romance. Yeah. You know what? Romance after the game is great. But when you're in the trenches and you're digging week in, week out to survive, yeah, the romance goes out the window a bit. I hope that's not a bit of a shock.
Yeah. I think there's something to be kind of said, though, in terms of the fact that sport's greatest, in terms of the business of sport, the thing you're not necessarily trading on the sport, but you are trading on people's emotions. And I think sometimes what you put as romance, other people will put as kind of emotion and passion. And I think there's sometimes, and I do think of kind of other sports, although our sport has suffered from it as well, is that sometimes people have kind of lent too hard into the business element and have forgotten about why people go.
Yeah. And for me, people have got to enjoy themselves. People are not coming if they're not enjoying themselves. So when people come, and that's part of, the 4 things we basically focus on are putting a good team on the ice, want the club to be sustainable, want community engagement, want a good match night experience. Yeah, and match night experience comes right up there. After you got to put a good team on, you got to have a good match night experience so people want to come back, and that to me is important. But you've got to be able to survive. There's a reality to it that, yeah, you've got to be able to survive. There's, I wouldn't name clubs, but there's clubs over the years who owners have been in, they've spent a fortune, lost a fortune, and then left. That's not good for anybody. That doesn't get continuity. That doesn't get growth of the junior club. That doesn't get any growth at all, or any benefits when somebody just throws money in, loses money, and then leaves. That's not what it's about for me. We got to be a long term. When I first You probably remember Lee Brathwaite, yeah?
Yeah.
Lee? 2004-05 was our first year. And at the end, I started talking to players about next year, which was just the right thing to do. And he said, "Are you going to do it again?" I went, "Yeah." And he couldn't believe I was going to just do it again, because there'd been that many people coming through and running the team, leaving the team. And to me, it's just the right thing to do. Just continue and build it. So, yeah, it's passion, love the sport. But when you get to the point of you're going to go bankrupt, lose your business, and you've got people relying on you, that's the thing. You got people, and I don't just mean family here now. I'm talking about we employ people outside of players. We employ people, so you've got to take a business approach. But I get your point. I take your point of it cannot just all be business, because it's about the fans in the end. In the end, if there's no fans, you've got no sport. You know, COVID was great to get out of the house. You know, we're playing that November series.
On the boards then.
But I tell you what, sitting up in the stands, eating a pizza by yourself, not very good. Not, you know what? You might, the first game you think, oh, you're back, great. But yeah, it's all about the fans. It's got to be. But it's got to be balanced between sustainability and the enjoyment and the experience and the community side of it. So yeah, that's the four things we focus on, and that's what we do.
We look to the future then very briefly, because there was one of the things that was mentioned, of course, as being in the purview of the national division, is that it will step out away from the EIHA to become its own entity, the BNL reborn almost. Where is the national division in that process?
We were in the process early part of last summer, or early part of last year. This year, 2023. We were in that process, had discussions. I don't think there's any secrets there. We'll be having those discussions again with the IHA, the UK. I don't believe there's any reason to keep anything secret, but those discussions will be between the teams and the governing bodies, and yeah, we'll come up with what's best again for the sport. And I think we do need to take the sport on. We do need to take the league on. The league needs to be better. You know, you mentioned the dubs, but there's lots of areas where we've just got to be better at. So yeah, we'll do that, and we'll speak to governing bodies again, and yeah, see where we go.
Nice diplomatic answer there for the time being on that one. As we sort of edge towards the end of our time together, then I'll ask a very sort of deep philosophical question that's been rattling around my head, because
you might not get a good answer.
Well, sorry,
you might not get a good answer.
No, but the thing I was interested in was, and this comes off the back of the fact that, I mean, for disclosure of people watching who aren't familiar, I have a lot of friends in Swindon. I've known Ben Callahan since he was your press officer since he was a very, very young man. I've got a lot of people that I know sort of connected to the club. I've obviously spoken to Aaron a fair bit over the last little while. And one of the things I get taught, two things I was told about you was that you are honest to a fault, and that you will get involved. You've been involved with so much for such a long time. Do you foresee a point where you will step away from all of this?
No, not really. No, what? Yeah, why would I step away? I do. I love what I do. You know, probably don't do as many hours now, but probably for 10, 15 years doing 60, 80 hours a week, but not once did I ever think it was work. So, you know, love what I do. We all work in it, the family work in it. I've had, dare I say, proper jobs, and this is a lot better. Might work a lot harder, might work longer hours, might be probably more stress. But yeah, when you, it's all I've done for 20 years now, really. And I started playing when I was 11. So, you know, that's a long time to be involved, and I don't see any reason why I would step away. Yeah, love what I do, so just carry on.
Just won't become a director of the IHA anytime soon.
No, and you know what? That's I think what people don't get, and you know, people might think, oh, I'm defending the IHA. Whoever the directors are, They're not bad people. And everybody's got their opinions. They're not bad people. I don't believe the bad people in the sport. I think there's a lot of, well-meaning volunteers putting in a lot of hours, week in, week out. And unless, yourself, if you're prepared to put in 20, 30, 40 hours a week, go and stand to be a director. That's the thing, because that's what they're doing. And even, below the director level, when you got people in the clubs, we've got a great GM in Swindon, great GM in Leeds for the junior clubs. They're not just 4 or 5 hours a week. It's not an hour a night. 20 hours wouldn't even cut it. Wouldn't even, yeah. These people putting in 20, 30, 40 hours a week on top of their jobs to run junior clubs, to run EIHA. So as much as, things might not be great, they might not be perfect, but I certainly don't think there's bad people running it, and I don't think they're doing anything that other people might think is wrong. I don't think there's any intention behind it. We all make mistakes. We all do things we shouldn't. But yeah, that's my defense of them. But that would be my defense of anybody who's doing something voluntarily. And the myth about money is a myth.
I can't not pick up on that, Steve. The myth about the money, because the people can read the accounts on Companies House and see the money's there.
Yeah, but it's not going in the director's pockets. I've read
that is very, very fair, given that I can stand on that part of reporting.
Yeah, I don't know what people think about the money. Yeah, there's money there, and there's been more money in the past, and I have been sitting at those AGMs for, I don't know, 20 years maybe, and yeah, there's always questions about money and this and that, but I think that, Ken Taggart left us a few years ago as director. One thing whatever people would want to criticize Ken for, he left us with money. He didn't drive the thing into the ground, and there was plenty of money left. So Ken looked after the association with the other directors who were with him at the time for a long time, and yeah, kept money in the bank, which would have been a lot worse if there was no money in the bank.
I generally like to end these with a few sort of little shorter questions, bit of a lighter end as a one I want to do. So I'll ask you a few quick things before we go. The best bit of advice you've ever been given in terms of running a hockey club?
The four pillars. We very much do things, not necessarily over the years, never been a massive thinker about it, but we do things, we do a lot, and I think we do them well. But I spoke to a gentleman in another sport probably 2 or 3 years ago, and I asked him, what are the things that you do? And he gave me what I call our 4 pillars now. And the things I've mentioned to you earlier about good team on the ice, good entertainment, community, sustainability. And I sat there thinking, we already do that. We focus on that. We just didn't put it together and put it like that. So now I put it together, put it like that. And that's probably the best advice I've been given.
Who is the best player in the NIHL national division?
Best all-round player, Thomas Malazinski.
You've made the gentleman at Macca's Talk Hockey very, very happy on that front. You mentioned that you are from Sunderland. Have you bought your grandchildren a shirt yet?
No. No. They've got Leeds and Swindon shirts. They depend where they go. But yeah, no.
Most people I know from the northeast would have had the requisite football jersey on those grandchildren from the moment they were born. So I figured I would ask that question. Where do you want your 2 clubs to be in 5 years?
I think being successful on and off the ice, growing our community programs, I think is something to focus on. We do a lot of work with groups and schools, and I think growing that. After COVID, we had a couple of people left us, full-time people left us in Swindon. So growing that back up after COVID again, growing the community program really. making sure we're still here, making sure we're, I keep using the word sustainable, but just making sure we're still here. Everybody's enjoying it. We love what we do. We're working hard, but we want that to be for everybody as well. So, yeah, as long as we're still here in 5 years, and yeah, I'll be happy.
And the last question I will ask, and purely for the fact that he's not here, so we have the opportunity to embarrass him anyway. I won't ask you whether you are proud of your son, because of course you are, because he's also one of the best players at this level has ever seen. But I will ask you the question: if your son Aaron was playing in the era where you played, how would he survive? How would he do?
He'd be better than me, that's for sure. Yeah, I think when it's very hard to look back, and it doesn't matter what sport it is when you look back. But we were at a 60th birthday party of one of our ex-players, Richie Howe, last Saturday night, and there was lots of us there, ex-players, and yeah, I think the Brits are just better now. I think the Brits are better now. And there's more depth in the Brits now than there was back then. I wouldn't say anything about any of my teammates from back then, but but yeah, I just think it's better skill level, better skating, better, yeah, across the board.
He'd have survived all right, would he?
Yeah, I'm sure he would have. Yeah, he would have enjoyed it because the goalie's pads were a lot smaller.
And stood up for nearly everything, having watched some videos of Stretton versus Murrayfield the other day. Either way, as I say, we are a few days out from the grand return. The Cats have been away, but it is finally time for them to play once again. Steve Nell, thank you very much for your time this evening, sir.
Thanks, Anthony.